Khalid Ismail, aka Johnny Somali, had a disastrous day in court today where pretty much everything that could go wrong went wrong. There were some surprises, some twists, and we had some updates after my coverage to bring you today some extra information, some extra, a little extra spice to make it even worse. And of course, we're going to cover this all on The Legal Mindset. We teach you to be your own judge. I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney who's been covering the Somali Ramzi Khalid Ismail saga, the criminal saga in Korea, from beginning to end. And boy, we were waiting for this trial day for months, and it did not disappoint. This was the most crazy, dramatic day to date, and also the longest to date, at clocking in at a little over 25, 26 minutes, which compared to last hearings, which only lasted, 10, 5, 15 minutes, was actually a lot. And there were a ton of legal mistakes, blunders, admissions, confessions, things that absolutely turn this case against Ramzi Khalid Ismail and make it look really, really bad. Of course, this is the fast facts version, getting you the quick and dirty version. If you guys like this, please let me know in the comments below, and make sure you leave a comment and like the video. All right, so let's get into the PowerPoint, because of course I have one. This is the recap of the trial today, August 13th, 2025. Now, pre-trial, this is in Seoul, South Korea, same courtroom, same place. It was a rainy day. The courtroom was packed. This Korean media was there. The Somali conviction team was there. Hank was there. There was also a kick streamer there to watch it as well. Of course, nobody allowed to do video or audio from the courtroom. However, we did give you live play-by-plays because there are ways to do that. Ramzi Somali was late by a few minutes. Hank and Ramzi's lawyer went to find him. So Hank went out to find him. Ramzi's lawyer went out to find him. Eventually, they did find him. When he came in, he was dressed in a suit. He had a nice buzz cut. You're going to see photos of him later, but he looked gaunt. He looked thin. He had deep circles around his eyes. It was described that his deep circles had circles. He also was resigned. He did not make faces. He didn't look around at the crowd. He didn't stick out his tongue like he did in previous engagements, previous court dates. So he had a huge attitude shift going forward into this date. There was also a new interpreter sworn in. Last time there were interpreting issues, we had a new one, and the reviews from everybody, including people who spoke Korean and were doing translating for the Somali conviction team, was this translator was excellent. Not just good, excellent, perfect, 10 out of 10, great interpreter, which was amazing. So let's talk about, first of all, the first thing that came up was, did Hank lie? Now, Hank, in an interview recently with K-Town Social Club, said that Ramzi is no longer living with him. And Ramzi gave Hank's address in court. So either Hank was lying on the interview, or it's contempt of court. It's contempt of court. That's an additional crime that he's committing there. Or Hank is lying. I'm not going to say which way it is. You guys can kind of make up your mind. Most people seem to think it's probably a lie to throw them off the trail, but who knows? We don't really know. Hank also appeared to be distancing himself from Somali in a recent interview, but he sat in the front row. He went to find Ramzi, and he escorted him home with the lawyer in a cab. So he essentially was right there winging him the entire time. And right now we're going to get into the next part, which was a disaster, which was Ramzi's lawyer. Now, this is not to say he's incompetent or there's anything in terms of skill. Once again, as a lawyer, even if you're an amazing lawyer, you can be handed a bad case. The other thing that's going on here is, if the client tells you to argue something, you kind of have to argue it, even if you don't want to. So if the client says, hey, I want to plead not guilty, but you don't really have any evidence, you don't have any backup, the argument really doesn't work, well, you have to go with that. And even a really good lawyer, even an amazing lawyer, can kind of be put in a bad place. And I kind of feel bad for Ramzi's attorney, because it's very clear that Johnny and his, fools on Discord, etc., are feeding these arguments in that just do not work in court. They're not Korean lawyers. They don't know Korean law. Johnny's not a Korean lawyer, but he's trying to force these arguments that just don't work in the Korean system. And it led to a lot of losses today, loss after loss after loss. There was not a single win, even procedurally, even small victories for the Somali team. So let's talk about that. So right off the bat, the first thing in the hearing was the judge asked Ramzi's lawyer for any specific evidence on the crimes Ramzi pled not guilty to. So specifically the deepfakes. We're talking about the deepfakes for which he pled not guilty. So the judge says, hey, what evidence do you have? And the lawyer was completely flustered by this. He could not answer. He said, hey, we submitted that to the court, so, you should have that, right? But he couldn't, when pressed, give any of the information, any defense at all. He couldn't remember any specifics. That's not good. Now, what may have happened here is Johnny may have had this packet of information, perhaps the dossier prepared by his Discord, which was submitted to the judge or submitted to the court. However, didn't really memorize that, didn't really go through it. Maybe he's busy, maybe didn't have time, maybe didn't understand it. Who knows? We don't know what's going on, but that was a very bad look and did not look good in court. Beyond that, Ramsey's lawyer tried to complain about late notice and procedure, and he tried to kind of make it sound like the prosecution was doing something bad or untoward or unofficial or breaking the rules. And now the prosecutor, and I have been in this courtroom, I've seen the prosecutor. The prosecutor looks like a very nice, mild-mannered, calm guy. I watched him an entire day in court cases. I sat in another day and watched like 6-7 trials. This guy never was aggressive. He never got angry, was very calm and collected, very professional. But all the reports from the courtroom today, and I went over several after the stream, I asked several sources, I said, hey, was this what happened? And they said, yes. He aggressively countered Ramsey's lawyer in a way in which is not typical for a prosecutor to normally do. Pretty much Ramsey's lawyer was saying, hey, you're doing something wrong. And the prosecutor got up and said, oh, hell no. And excuse my language, or I'll put some in the swear jar, but said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. All notice we gave was proper. Everything was legal. We followed the procedure. And the judge quickly stepped in and took the side of the prosecutor, not Ramsey's lawyer, overruled Ramsey's lawyer and said verbatim, this is not an issue, move on. So absolute procedural L, massive procedural L for Ramsey's lawyer. Going beyond that, there was the new charge, the charge of the additional obstruction. That's once again, the fourth obstruction charge that was coming up. It was revealed that this new charge, was for conduct on 2 Seoul buses on September 27, 2024. Now, this was they stated stuff like playing loud music in TTS and playing North Korean propaganda. Now, mind you, he is not charged under the terrorism statute, under the terrorism law. He's still charged under obstruction of business. So it doesn't change the nature and make him guilty of terrorism. However, it does conclude that they were factoring in the fact that he was playing North Korean propaganda. They know, and they were listening to that. It says that disturbed the passengers, it disrupted operations, and ultimately for a obstruction of business, if you disturb normal operations of business, you are guilty. So therefore, Ramsey knew he was dead to rights on this and pled guilty to this new obstruction charge. So once again, another guilty in the bucket. Now we're going to talk about the other things that he pled guilty to. So previously, Ramsey had pled not guilty to the Lotte World charge. That is going into Lotte World, causing a scene, disrupting the ride, causing the ride to close. So we had a huge surprise today. We thought the witness for today was going to be Bong Bong. Everybody thought that, myself included. And you know what? I was wrong. Look at that. I'm admitting I was wrong here. It was actually the witness that was a staff woman from Lotte World, who repeatedly told Ramsey not to film. She was actually quite disturbed by the fact that he would not stop filming. And you could see that in the video, in the original video. I've reviewed that video. I'm not going to show her because I don't want to put her face out there and make it, put any pressure on her or anything else. But you can see in her face that she was not happy about it. And she showed up. And Ramsey changed his plea to guilty on the Lotte World charge. He may have been gambling that the Lotte World witness would no-show, and saying, okay, if the witness no-shows, then okay, we can go in not guilty because she's going to no-show and not be there. However, she showed up and was highly motivated to be there. So big shout out to Lotte World. Big shout out for filing this charge. This is one that a lot of members of the SC team, my team, worked really, really hard to see if we can get pressed, to see if we can get in there. And big shout out to the people that helped out, especially people like Bang TV and the others in Korea that really helped press this charge. So because he changed his plea from guilty to not guilty, he now has 6 confirmed guilty charges, 4 obstruction of business and 2 minor crimes act. So he is a confirmed repeat offender, repeat criminal with all of these. And once again, each charge stacks up the amount of time he can be in jail. At this point, the maximum is 12 years. However, even the default, even the standard punishment would be over 4 years in jail. Even if they don't give him the aggravated maximum of 12 years, the standard, the non-aggravated, is 4 years and some change in terms of months. So even not counting the deepfakes, this is very, very serious. Now, one important thing is Ramsey's lawyer seems to think obstruction and all this is a joke. He actually was scoffing and laughing, etc., when they were talking about obstruction, like, oh, it's not a big deal. This is a big deal, and people have gone to jail for years in Korea for this. Absolutely. So now we have it here, like we said, 4 guilty for the obstruction of business, guilty on the Minor Crimes Act, and not guilty on the deepfake. These are his pleas. Of course, he's going to have to fight this at the next trial, and I do believe there's sufficient evidence to find him guilty on the deepfake counts. We're going to talk about that next. But now we know the 4th count is for the bus North Korean propaganda, the loud music, so we know what's going on here. So he's kind of got 2 obstructions for the bus, one for Lotte World and one for 7-Eleven. This is not just about a cup of noodles, folks. This is much more than a cup of noodles. Going on, let's talk about the deepfakes. And a deepfake is the crime that Johnny Somali fears the most. He's scared to death because this is one that absolutely carries prison time right off the bat. The statute will not allow for fines. It's straight to prison, no other option. Now, the deepfake was a disaster for Johnny's defense. They pretty much confessed. Let's talk about this. So Ramsey's lawyer argued that Ramsey doesn't know how to make a deepfake, that he is incompetent to make a deepfake, which, look, we all know that's BS. It takes 2 seconds to make a deepfake. There's AI, there's other mechanisms. Anybody can make a deepfake, and Ramsey is certainly capable of it. But beyond that, that's what the lawyer said makes him innocent. The lawyer said he didn't make it, so because he didn't make it, he's innocent. But the prosecutor immediately countered, once again, getting up there, getting in their face. Great job by the prosecution, amazing performance. Said, so you deny making the deepfake, but you admit, you confess to distributing, which is publishing the deepfake. Ramsey's lawyer said, well, he was drunk. He admits distribution, but denies production. So saying he confesses that he distributed, but denies production. First of all, there is no I was drunk defense in the statute. Being drunk or high or whatever is not a defense. It's did you do it or not? There's no state of mind involved here. So being drunk is not at all going to mitigate this or make this better or make him not guilty. That is not going to work at all. But the bombshell admission is the admission of guilt as to production. It's not relevant. The only thing that's relevant is that Ramsey distributed or published it, meaning whether or not Ramsey made it is irrelevant. And just to prove that, let's look at the statute here. Now, I know this language is small. This is the full statute. I want you guys to know he's really going to be hit under number 3 or number 4 here, but you have to read number 2 because number 3 here under the distribution of false video products, the deepfake law, Article 14.2, Article 3 here says a person who commits a crime under paragraph 2 by means and information of communication networks against the will of the subject, Bong Bong and Youngman, and making profits, he was streaming and making money, shall be punished by imprisonment with labor for not more than 7 years. It also says somebody who habitually commits this can have it aggravated. So that's a big one as well. So he's going to be charged under 3 or 4 here, but this one, he obviously made profit, and we got to read paragraph 2 to find out, okay, what does it describe the crime as? Well, what's the crime? Does it say a person who makes a deepfake? No, it actually doesn't say that, although it does have in another statute in number 1, a person who edits it, synthesizer process. But number 2, it says a person who has published. The only thing that's important to the crime is that he put it on screen. And because he has now confessed, he put it on screen. In the eyes of the judge and the prosecutor, it's done. It's a shut case. It's over, baby. He's just admitted to it. Now, he's entitled to his right to fight back. He can question the witnesses. And we're going to talk about the witnesses in a second because that was a whole other loss for Somali. But at this point, we have him dead to rights on this crime, which is what I predicted and I've been saying for the past almost year when I've been talking about the deepfake crime, saying, hey, look, it doesn't matter what his excuses are. It doesn't matter who Bong Bong is or Youngman is or whether they're bad people. Youngman, one of the streamers who is the cause for one of the deepfakes, is in jail right now. So clearly he's done some bad things, but that doesn't matter. All that matters is Johnny published a deepfake of Youngman and Johnny published a deepfake of Bong Bong. That's it. That's all. So let's continue here. There was a huge loss, once again, another disaster regarding the witnesses. So Ramsey's lawyer was fighting tooth and nail not to allow the deepfake witnesses. He did not want those deepfake witnesses to come in. That would have been disastrous for him in his mind. Well, the prosecution argued that since Ramsey admits distribution but denies production, the witnesses have to be allowed. They must be allowed for arguing back about the production. The judge sided immediately with the prosecution and allowed the witnesses. Says, no. If you're still fighting this, if you're still pleading not guilty, we're going to allow the witnesses. Now, Ramsey's lawyer went beyond that. So once again, another overrule trying to get rid of him. Now Ramsey's lawyer said, okay, I want extended cross-examination. Instead of the standard 15-minute cross-examination of each witness, I want 25 minutes. The judge denied Ramsey's request. Guys, this is massive. In Korean procedure, in discussing this with lawyers and people experienced with the process, this almost never happens. Typically, if they request this, they give it. This is the judge telling Ramsey to cope and seethe. It's saying, we don't think your defense has enough. It's not worth it to give you 25 minutes. It's not going to prove anything. So all that dossier, all that other stuff, whatever else you think is relevant, that's really not worth 25. You've got 15 minutes for each witness, 15 minutes for Bong Bong, 15 minutes for Youngman, so 30 minutes total. That'll probably go, about an hour maybe-ish next trial. And that's all you've got. Ramsey's lawyer just has 15 minutes, and we'll see what he does with those 15 minutes. It probably is going to be pretty crazy. So we had a little action outside the court. Here's Ramsey leaving the court with his buzz cut, his new buzz cut, the suit. You see him there with Hank there. Definitely a different look today. So Ramsey quickly left with Hank and his lawyer. They did not interact with media or streamers. They avoided a kick streamer, Paul Risen, who attempted to interview them. And the streamer appeared to be anti-Somali generally, so maybe Somali knew that. But what I'm saying is he wasn't interacting. In the past, he was cursing at people. He was taking interviews. He was saying stuff. And he was smiling, smirking. Now he quickly ran to get in the cab. He wants nothing to do with the media. It reflects that I think he realizes this is serious and he's about to find out. He realized this was absolutely a massive loss for him today. Then other news is the next trial is October 29th, same courthouse, 2 p.m. So right before Halloween, we're going to have a spooky surprise for Somali. And the deepfake witnesses will be called next time, Bong Bong and Youngman. So they will be called to testify on October 29th. So we thought they were going to come today. Bong Bong was going to come today. It's no. So Bong Bong and Youngman will be coming at the next trial. So that should be something to look forward to. Will be absolutely insane to see what Ramsey's lawyer tries to question them. I want to know what you guys think about this. How percentage cooked is Ramsey? And I'll catch you on the next one.
Are you guys enjoying the stream today?